Well, today is April the 15th, the deadline for filing your federal income tax return. It's also the day for the Tax Day Tea Party rally in Washington. Well, just who are these Tea Party activists? Jennifer Wishon has that story.
Americans who aren't a part of it aren't sure what to make of it. The Tea Party is not a traditional political party. It doesn't have the structure of the RNC or DNC or even a dedicated funding stream.
If you are an advocate of liberty, if you're an advocate of limited government, if you're an advocate of fiscal responsibility, you're welcome at the Tea Party, and there is no racial litmus test.
Some Tea Party opponents say the signs and rhetoric at Tea Party rallies are racially and otherwise offensive. It's something Tea Party organizers denounce. Ron Miller, who's executive director of Regular Folks United, says he's never seen it. Instead of focusing on the fringe, Miller and other activists say lawmakers need to recognize the Tea Party represents real mainstream Americans who are unhappy with the size and direction of government.
It is time to remind them that government should be working for us. We should not have to work for the government.
Tens of thousands of Tea Party activists have assembled here on Capitol Hill to lobby lawmakers. Many went home feeling like they had not been heard or even taken seriously. And activists say that's what's fueling their anger.
You know, I got another thing about money, too.
CBN News captured this exchange with activists talking to Senator Bob Casey's staff during the health care debate. Tea Partiers say lawmakers on both sides of the aisle who aren't listening, beware.
Our job is to get conservatives elected, and sometimes that means replacing a bad Republican with somebody that actually believes in the principles of limited government.
And with 7 months until the midterm elections, Tea Partiers say men and women seeking elected office will marginalize them at their own peril. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
Thanks, Jennifer. Well, Juan Williams is a contributor to Fox News, a political analyst for National Public Radio. Juan, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
It's an honor to be with you, Pat.
What about this Tea Party? Who are these people? You've gone out talking to them.
Oh, you know, it's really interesting. It's clear that these are people who are upset with the idea of big government and big spending in this country getting out of control. Now, Pat, as we're talking today, there's a story, front page in the New York Times, that does a poll of people involved in the Tea Party. It finds that Tea Party people are overwhelmingly male over the age of 45. It finds that they're better educated and that they're wealthier, more Republican, more conservative. I think a lot of them are very upset about spendings, particularly they're upset about things like the health care reform bill. As I said, the Tea Party people are generally more Republican and whiter, and when you ask people about the health care reform bill, often they say that what they see here is that President Obama is out to help minorities and the poor, and they don't feel that the president, this Democratic president, is out to help them or understands their issues at the moment. So there's a lot of discontent about taxes on this tax day, about the size of government. Some of it gets mixed up with race, but actually what they're saying is nobody's looking out for me.
Well, it's not really racist or homophobic, is it, or is it?
No, I don't see that. What I see, Pat, is that these are mainstream concerns. You know, you mentioned this earlier in the program. People very upset about bailouts for Wall Street and the like. They're very upset about that, and obviously Wall Street is dominated by white Americans. No, they're upset with Wall Street. They're upset with big spending by government. They don't trust the leadership either in Washington or Wall Street, and certainly not out in Hollywood in terms of the cultural issues in the country. So there are people who are saying no one's listening to us, and we're worried about the direction of the country.
Well, it's sort of an amorphous group. Do they have any leadership? Sarah Palin seems to be taking front stage, but is she really going to be the leader of it, or do they have a leader?
Well, they really don't have a leader. Sarah Palin is sort of an iconic figure. She's very well known. In terms of the political game here in Washington, people look to someone like Dick Armey, former Republican House Majority Leader. And Dick Armey has been organizing at some of these events. Then, as you know, they've had some conventions. But again, nobody has emerged as a single figurehead, if you will, at the top of the organization. Instead, what you see is people all over the country speaking out. And I just want to mention something here quickly, Pat. You know, for all the way the media beats up on the Tea Party folks, when you ask in polls Americans about the Tea Party, what you see is that about 30% say they have a favorable view of the Tea Party. About 25% they have a negative view. But what you'll notice here is most Americans don't express any strong point of view about the Tea Party. They say they want to learn more. And I think that's because so many of the Tea Party's concerns, anger over big government, anger over taxes, anger over health care reform, are reflections of mainstream American upset at this time. That's where the heart beat, the pulse, if you will, of American anger and attitude is in terms of politics in 2010.
Well, let's presume they will be 4 Republican candidates, but is there a possibility they're going to bomb out some of the existing Republicans and maybe lose Republican seats? What do you think?
Well, this is interesting, Pat, because, in some cases, the Tea Party folks hold up a litmus test and say, this is what we expect from anybody who's going to be a Republican Party. And the Republican establishment here in Washington has been very slow to accommodate the energy and the dynamism of this Tea Party movement. They're not sure exactly what it's going to do. You look at some of the candidates, and people like Tim Pawlenty, former governor of Minnesota, and he's looking to run, and he's not exactly fitting with the Tea Party agenda. So they're not exactly being boosters for Mr. Pawlenty. You look again at someone like John McCain. He was feeling very much threatened by Tea Party folks out in Arizona until Sarah Palin came to his rescue. So there's not a clear relationship between the Republican Party and the Tea Party, although most Tea Party folks say they are Republicans.
Have you taken a look at that Florida race? It looks like Charlie Crist is in serious trouble.
Exactly. Marco Rubio, again, very much aligned with the Tea Party. And so what you see is Charlie Crist possibly being forced out of the picture, maybe run as an independent.
What would you recommend if you're going to give advice to either party? What would you tell them to do?
You know what? The thing I'd say, Pat, is be aware that to dismiss or somehow to make the Tea Party out to be a bunch of racist kooks is a losing hand, because the Tea Party represents, again, mainstream American upset with politics at this moment. These are not wild-eyed people. These are people who are saying, I don't think my representatives are speaking for me, are looking out for my self-interest. These are not racist. These are people who are saying, for example, you know what, I think as a result of health care reform, my Medicare spending, my Medicare Advantage may be taken away or cut. They're simply expressing their point of view and their needs, Pat.
Juan Williams, thank you very much. Very cogent analysis. Thank you.
Nice to be with you, Pat. Good morning.
Yeah. Come back again.
Thank
Juan
you.
Williams. Very insightful, interesting.
Very insightful. And what I appreciated Juan talking about was that, this isn't a race issue. These are true issues that mainstream Americans are really, really concerned about.
It's bipartisan. People were mad with Bush.
Yeah.
A lot of conservatives have jumped ship because Bush turned out to be a big spending liberal. And he ran the deficits of the government up to shocking levels, but Obama has doubled down and gone up twice as much.